Let me move. Happy Monday, you guys. How you guys doing?
It's been busy for me this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a real Monday.
Yeah, real Monday.
When is your call with your client?
Today at 2.
All right, let's get to it then. All right. Are we recording? Yep. I'm gonna share my screen. All right, guys, welcome to today's training. Thank you for being here. We are going over the podcast, how to podcast and everything underneath that umbrella. Did you guys get the workbook okay?
Yeah, I saw it. I'm pulling it up now.
Okay, Dolly, do you need me to send it to you? Maybe I can add it in the chat. Let's see. Chat. Workbook, it's a PDF. Did it work? No. I don't think I can add files in here, or can I? Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, go ahead and download that. It should be uploading in the chat right now. Okay, so it's the same as this, just to kind of help you guys follow along, and you guys have that. All right, so before we begin, welcome. 90% of success is showing up. Yay! Welcome to Monday. Welcome to showing up. Super exciting. Let's set our intentions. Let's get grounded in this week and in our training. Raise your energy up 300 feet above you and allow light source energy to just come into your crown, blessing your crown, your space, going down into your chakras, and blessing your week ahead, blessing the training, and allowing for any divine energy to just come in and bless you and your family and the whole week for you. Okay, and let go any kind of like heavy stuff, let's just add it, ask the light to let it go now and take it from you now. Thank you. Okay, today we are going to go over the benefits of podcasting, podcasts, and your coaching business. We're also going to talk about the myths around podcasting, creating a cover art around podcasting or your podcast show, how to title your podcast, episode requirements, podcast formats, hosting, distribution. We're going to also really go into Anchor FM. That is where I podcast. And that's the easiest place. Monetizing your podcast. And lastly, we're going to go over the legal aspects of podcasting. Okay, so jumping in, benefits of podcasting, it builds your authority within the online space. And as a coach, you're also building intellectual property asset as you publish new episodes, just like blogging. Anytime you blog and publish new content, you are growing your intellectual property. It improves your coaching business. So, you know, even in my program, I have some that some of the modules will have some of my podcast episodes in there for you guys to listen to. So you can also use that for your coaching program. It adds income. So you can have people either pay you to advertise on your podcast, which I'll go over a little further down in the training. And you can there's different ways you can make money from podcasting, but it does add financial income as well. It allows you to practice the art of articulation. So one of the things that I've talked to you guys about when we are looking to master messaging is that we want to practice what we have in our heads and really having it come out of our mouths in harmony the way we want it to. So when you podcast, you actually express the heart and soul of who you are, which then creates healing for yourself. That's one of the biggest things for me, for podcasting, is that it really allowed me to heal a lot of the things that I didn't really know about with myself. So podcasts and your coaching business. So for your coaching business, when you create a podcast, it helps two umbrellas. It helps your prospects and it helps your current clients. So your prospects will listen to your episodes and it builds authority for them. It gains respect from you as a leader, as a coach, as a person within the community. And then it will increase sales as it builds authority for you. Another aspect is the client aspect. Your clients will start listening to your episodes and it helps reinforce concepts on how to think within the program, how to think within whatever it is that you're helping them with. And then with that, it helps get client results as they listen to your episodes outside of coaching. Okay, so with myths on podcasting. So these are kind of like the things that people believe podcasting to be, which is you need fancy tech, gadgets, and expensive editing software. They believe you need a studio to record episodes. They believe that you need a time frame requirement, like an hour. You need to have an hour, a few hours of length of time per episode. That's not true. They also believe it takes a long time to edit a podcast episode and have it ready to be published. And some people actually think they need to interview people in the podcast, which is not true either. I don't know how come people think that, but it's okay because we'll talk about that. And then also they think that in order for you to have a podcast, you need to be an expert at some level to talk about it, which is not true. Okay, so these are all myths around podcasting. But the truth of the matter is that you don't need complicated softwares to podcast at all. You don't need expensive studio. There's no rule on timeframes for each episode. It does not take a long time to edit each episode. You don't need to interview people and you don't need to be an expert to have a podcast. Just be passionate, right? That's the only thing that will really drive your podcast, is if you are passionate about the topic. So we're jumping into the cover art. So some of you guys Dolly, do you have a podcast or are you starting one? I don't remember.
I'll be starting one. I mean, I have a YouTube, but
okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of you already have your branding around it. So when you do create your cover art, make sure it is cohesive with your branding. It has either a photo of you or a logo of your company. It's easy to read because it will be a thumbnail. So it needs to be legible from the, like, if you look at like either your phone and how that thumbnail size is, it needs to be big enough. And you have the audience understand what the show is about. And then it's compelling enough to get a click and to learn more. So here's some examples of cover art. I did throw mine in there. It took me some time to finally get like a really good feeling one for me. So I threw my photo up. I have my big name on there, Maria, spirituality and business. Here's one that is mindfulness guidance, and it's a meditation podcast. So that's very clear. Jordan Harbinger is a very successful podcaster, and it's his name show with a mic and him. I don't know where the cat, why there's a cat, but there's a cat. And down here, you'll see the Self-Love Fix podcast. See how, if you imagine this is like a thumbnail, it's very hard to read that. So remember, when you create your thumbnail, the text has to be big enough so it can be read. And always remember, it's going to be a thumbnail of an icon, an image. I thought out of all of these that I found, this one was actually pretty good. You can clearly tell what this podcast is about. It's loud, in your face. It's about football. So, when you create yours, make sure it does give that how. Okay. So for your title of your podcast, you want to create like a broad title. So you can do something like, I don't know, daily chat with Dolly, or Courtney, I don't know, day in the life with Courtney, something like broad. And then the subtitle is niche down. So mine is Talks with Maria, and it's a spiritual entrepreneur podcast, which is niche down subtitle, right? You can also do your company name or just your name. So mine is Talks with Maria. That is also my corporation, which is TWM. And then you can also throw in your niche. So Dolly, you are a parenting coach with emphasis in bullying. So you can do either parenting coach or bullying in there somewhere, bullying awareness. Your niche for court, health, nursing business coach, like that alone is like easy peasy. Okay. So remember, when you do create your title, that it is a broad title and a niche down subtitle. Examples is, we already kind of went over that, mindfulness podcast, a meditation podcast. Jordan Harbinger, he interviews people. So his is Real Intelligent Talk. So it's conversations with really highly successful people on his podcast. Okay, so let's create an episode. How that would look like is you need to have an introduction on your episode. So your introduction, I'll go into what your introduction needs to have. But on top of the introduction, you want to have your content or your body of your episode, and you need to have an outro, which includes a call to action. I've realized that background music is non-negotiable. You should have background music. It really does create for a better listening experience for your audience. Okay, so for episode must-haves, okay, you would have the introduction, and you want to welcome your listeners, share the title of your episode, and identify the episode topic, and then do a call to action. And that's it. That's the introduction. So it should be about 20 or 30 seconds long. Then you want to have your content. Then from there, you're going to go into your content of the podcast, which requires no real-time requirements. It does not need to be 60 minutes long or whatever long you think. It's just as long as it's compelling conversation. If you're the one educating the audience, or if it's a conversation between you and somebody else, it needs to be just compelling enough. That's really the biggest thing. Minimal background noise is a thing also. For me, I'm a mom, so if I record at home, I will get some background noise, and that's how come having background music is so important. Having background music, I notice even for me, if I listen to a podcast episode with no background music, I don't know, it kind of makes me sleepy, or it just makes me check out for some reason. I don't know why. Or even like, those fun sounds where like you say something really cool, and then there's like a cool, I don't know, like horn, like figure out a cool thing that you can kind of like wake up your audience within the episode. Okay. The third part is your outro. So you're going to thank your audience for listening to the show. You're going to encourage your audience to share the show with someone who can learn from the show. And then you're going to offer a call to action, either book a call or email me with questions at whatever your email address is. Okay. Any questions so far?
I do.
Okay,
So
cool.
when creating the thumbnail, can we test and see how it will look before publishing it? Because I struggled with my YouTube one, and it took a while to get the font size correct so that people could read it well.
No, you would actually have to publish it and then pull it up in the different distributions to see how it looks. Now I'm going to give you samples of how that looks when you pull up mine. I did a video on that here down on the further slides. But you will have to publish it before you can see it. So you have to hit the save button and then see it before you make that final decision.
So are we able to change it once we do publish?
You
Okay.
can change it as many times as you want. There's
Oh,
no,
okay.
yeah, there's no whatever, a minimum requirement or whatever max. No, yeah, you can do it as many. I can change mine every day if I wanted to. But yeah, you can definitely test that out and I'll show you how that looks. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question about the music. So when you say it must have music throughout the entire podcast, you mean play music?
Yeah, and I'm going to show you that too. Now, all of these like types of music's background is available on Anchor.
Okay.
They have a really big range of options, and I'm going to show you a tiny clip that I've gotten a tiny clip in the video of the type of music to choose from, and they're kind of general. They're not like weird, like what the hell is this? They're very user friendly. So that's what I mean by, if you don't use it, you might as well. It's free, it's there, and it's nice. It's a better listening experience. And I think there's about, I would say, I don't know, maybe under 100 types of tunes. I don't know how to call it. Jingles. Okay. Okay, any other questions? Good. Okay, cool. Where did we leave off at? Formatting. Okay, so there are 6 types of podcast formats, and these kind of formats we'll dive into. So the 6 types is interviewing. So you'll go in and interview people. Number 1 is interviewing. Number 2 is conversational talk show type. So there's multi-host. Number 3 is solo. So it's like educational type or a day in the life. Number 4 is a panel or a round table. So it's like a bunch of people talking about one thing, and they're kind of an expert in it. And then number 5 is storytelling, so fiction or nonfiction. And then number 6 is a Q&A type of podcast. So number 1 is the interviewing style, which is, the example of that is Jordan Harbinger. I actually really listen to him. He's had me start my own podcast because of listening to Jordan Harbinger. So you will need a lineup of experts that will be on the show if you do interviewing, the type of interviewing podcast, okay? You'll ask a series of questions about their products, services, and what they do in the world. And the interviewees at some level needs to align with your audience and you, okay? So you're not gonna have like some random person on your podcast that has no alignment with what you do. That doesn't make any sense. So anytime you do interviews, it has to make sense with what you do in the world and how it would benefit the audience. Number 2 is conversational or talk show type. So conversations with a friend or colleagues. You're going to be covering, in this kind of podcast, you'd cover daily topics, news, and sharing opinions. This would be a multi-host show. And an example of this is Higher Learning with Rachel Lindsay and Van Lathan. This is actually a really great example. Do you guys listen to this show at all? They cover all, like, everything under the sun, and then you can also hear about them and you get to know them a little bit more as well. Number 3 is a solar educational. This one is a one person hosting the show. You're going to be covering a specific niche or topic. And then it's kind of like free form. You're going to just, it's just you. So you're going to be talking about it the way you want to talk about it. And an example of that would also be like a day in the life. This one is an educational math and physics podcast, guys. I would never listen to this. I just threw it in there because that was the only thing I found. Maybe like physics, like quantum energy field in that aspect. Okay, podcast format number 4 is the panel or round table. So a group of people that are experts within the same field, they have contrasting points of view or personality styles that kind of make it exciting to listen to. And this one is a fantasy focused football, which I only know my partner is into football, so he does this podcast. No clue. That's that one. And then number 5 is storytelling. So this looks kind of spooky. You can see the thumbnail, like you can tell that this is going to be kind of spooky. It offers short stories for the audience. You know, I even know Disney has one, and they have small short stories of like the little Disney movies for kids, which I think is really cool. And then the last one is a Q&A. So this one is your audience will submit their questions. The podcast will answer them. It requires a form of an audience to begin with when you do this. And this one, she helps Christians or people who are religious find answers. So it's like she probably is a part of a church or something like that. And people submit questions to her and she talks about it in her podcast. So I didn't list the 7th one because the 7th one is kind of like a little bit of everything. Like you can do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And for me personally, it's easier to manage and it's intuitive to what you want. Okay, there's like no rules with how you do a hybrid type of podcast. So I don't even know if mine really is a hybrid podcast. I just don't feel like I follow a lot of the rules. So I threw mine in there. Okay. So let's decide on a format. You don't have to do it right now, but when you do decide, think about these 3 questions. Number 1, what comes easiest to you to put out? Which one sounds easier for you? Which one has less work and less stress? Number 2, what can you be consistent with? Okay, so what are the things that you can do within your podcast that ensures consistency? So for me, I knew that recording on my phone would make me consistent. That's what I did. So for you guys, what would be a format that would be helpful for you to be consistent? And the last question is, how can you position your podcast for longevity? So one of the things about podcasting is that there's a lot of ghost podcasts, like meaning they create podcasts and then 8 episodes in, they stop. So you don't want to be that person who creates a podcast and it's just sitting there years later. You want to grow it, create it, add it as a value for your clients and your prospect. So making it easy is the best thing. Okay, any questions so far? Good. Hosting and distribution. So I really did not want to talk about hosting and distribution because this my brain is like mush, okay, with hosting and distribution. But we're gonna talk about it. And a lot of people get confused with hosting and distribution. So let's jump into hosting. What is hosting? Hosting is using a third party to host your podcast. It is the same as buying a domain name and hosting your site on like Wix or on WordPress. That's what hosting means. Like you actually buy a space for your podcast to sit. That's what hosting is, okay? And there are 2 types of companies. Now there's all sorts, but these are the 2 that are popular: Podbean or Zencastr. I think they have paid and free options. Now, the reason why it would be paid is because some packages are like unlimited packages of like downloads. You can download however many episodes, but the other types of packages would be like per month, you can only download 3 hours worth of podcasts. And see, these are regulations that these hosting companies will have, because you got to think about how many podcast episodes there can be if it was unlimited. You could literally record every day, and that would be 30 days worth of podcast episodes they would need to manage. So they kind of cap that based on how much you spend. Okay, so the RSS feed is what a podcast, it's kind of like the URL that your podcast uses to kind of keep all of the episodes chronologically in order, okay? Because as you publish it, it sits on top of one another, just like how I showed you in Anchor. What you would do is you would grab this RSS feed right here, you copy that, and then you can throw it in your website. And then how it would look is like this. So it stays in order according to the published dates. And it's kind of like a feed, like a timeline of all of your podcasts. That's what an RSS feed is. Now, by definition, it is really simple syndication. No clue what that means. And it refers to simple text files of information used in a format called XML. Girl, what? I don't know. That's what it means. I'm not going to even front you guys. Okay. But the point though, for user like usage, you want to take the link of the RSS feed and put it in your website, or I think that's really the only place that I think people would put it at is your website, so that your website will reflect your podcast. Okay, please. Move past RSS feed. So podcast distribution. So so we talked about hosting versus distribution. We talked about the different types of hosting companies too. There's other ones. And then once you figure out your hosting company, now you're going to figure out, well, where do you want people to listen to you at? And this is called the distribution part of podcasting. So the popular ones are the three at the top: Spotify, Apple, and Google. I threw in Stitcher in there because I don't know, Stitcher just sticks to my head. And then there's other ones, right? You can see, I don't know, what is that, like about 9 or 10 other ones. So the application is different for each one. I heard the application for Apple is like a nightmare. I heard it was a nightmare. Like it's like 10 days to get approved. And usually when it gets approved, it's because you did so much to get there. It's like a nightmare to do. All of my podcast episodes are all published on all of these platforms. And I'll tell you why. After I looked at hosting and distribution years ago, before I started my podcast, this is me. Like literally, like I did not know, what do I do? Do I even want to do this? Is it even worth it? This is just too much work. So finally, someone had shared with me, I really don't know where I found Anchor FM, you guys, but somehow Anchor FM came, and this is me. Right? Happy, so excited. God came through. So Anchor FM is where you can do hosting and distribution together for free. It's convenient. It's available on phone and laptop for recording and publishing episodes. You can even edit on there. You can throw in your music on there. Distributes to all popular podcast avenues, and it's super easy to set up. So a lot of Court, you're already in Anchor, so you're already sold. Dolly, I don't know what route you're going to take, but I recommend Anchor. We're going to jump into Anchor settings real quick. Okay. So I'm going to turn this up because it's a video. Okay, guys, we are jumping into the Anchor app. And right at the top with the 3 buttons, we're going to go ahead and click that. And we're going to go to account settings. And here you're going to put your name, your best email address, your URL that you'd like, and your website. And then we'll go to podcast settings. And under podcast settings, you can upload your thumbnail, and you're going to do your podcast name right here, which is, for me, is Talks with Maria. And then it's a business and spirituality podcast. And then a podcast description. So it's going to have my name again. And then again, spiritual and business podcast for spiritual entrepreneurs. I did add some other items on here. I wrote a book and I put the Amazon link and then also my email address. Now, you don't have to do that. I just do that just because when you pull up the actual podcast on like Spotify or Apple, it will be able to share that link and it'll also share that email. So if you do have some sort of link for whatever product you want to sell, definitely put that in there. Podcast category, there's many to choose from. Mine is under entrepreneurship, so you just select the one that works best for you. And then all of these other options at the bottom is off. So I don't add the Anchor logo on my cover art. My content is not explicit, I don't believe. And I don't display my personal email address in the RSS feed. I don't necessarily know the downfalls of, oops. All right, that was it, you guys. I moved the thing, but that was pretty much displaying your email address. I'm just thinking more on a security basis because right now that is my personal email that is on my RSS feed. Okay, so that's that for podcast settings and account settings. Okay, so that's that. And then how your podcast looks outside of Anchor. So Dolly, this is kind of like answering your question when it comes to your thumbnail. I'm gonna go ahead and play that one. Okay, guys, we are jumping into Spotify, and I wanted to show you how it looks when someone pulls up your account or your podcast. So I usually go through Spotify. This is how it looked for Spotify. So what you want to do is look at the bottom and you'll see that the link is clickable. You'll see the email, your website, and the actual Anchor link, the anchor.fm self-help podcast link is on there. And then the support link is just for donations. So that's an option for Anchor as well. People can donate to your podcast. Okay, so that's how it looks like when you open the account up in another, what is it? Did you have a question?
Yeah, about the donations. Is that something that's within Anchor, or can you just link up your PayPal or Cash App or whatever it is you have?
Yeah, so all the donations is through Anchor. So it would be like if you looked at the support, if you clicked on that, it would just say, what would you like to donate? And then it goes through the Anchor app. And then your Anchor is connected to your bank account.
And so are people really using this a lot? Is that something that we should have, or?
Which one, Anchor or the support?
No, the whole, the support thing.
Well, it's just like with anything. If you market it a lot, people will obviously know about it and if you show up, they're going to be intrigued to support you. I don't use that at all. It's just there because I think it's just a part of the handle. But, you can totally do that. Even for you, when you have your Clubhouse, you can literally start adding that as a form of, hey, we're also receiving donations. The more you talk about it, the more people know about it is really how it would be best served for you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, so that is how it would look like in Spotify. Now it does look a little differently on Apple Podcasts. I think you guys could probably look it up too and see. So now let's dive into how to create an episode. Hey guys, we are in the Anchor app, and I'm going to show you how to do and create an episode. All right, so you're going to hit the tools button at the bottom with the plus sign, and I'm going to hit the new episode at the top right there. And I'm going to create a new episode. So I'm going to click the plus button. And now I have the ability to add an episode. So I'm going to show you how I add an episode that I did that was a live on my Instagram. And back here, then I go to library, that purple folder. And this here is 3 spiritual activities. That is, sorry, I know that was like a weird editing thing. What I wanted to show you guys was how to grab that, you know how in the last training, I taught you guys how to do repurposing content. You're gonna pull and extract that live audio and you're gonna import it here at the top. So it's sitting in your phone as an MP3 right now because you've extracted it. Now you're gonna import it by clicking here and it's just gonna open up to that file. And that's when I added the 3 spiritual activities as a repurposed content. The live I did a few days ago. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in. And now it's going to be added to a new episode. So I'm going to add segment to episode. All right. Now I'm going to go to that episode and currently it's titled December 5th, 2021. But I'm going to complete adding the rest of the items within this episode. So earlier in the training, I said that we need several components to complete an episode, and that is an intro, an outro, and then the body of the episode. So currently we have the body of the episode in there. I'm going to go ahead and add the outro because that is pre-recorded. I'm going to show you how I actually just look it up here. It's in my library that I recorded last year. So I use the same outro every time. Now you can use a different one. You guys know I like to keep it simple. So I use the old one. And then I'm just going to create a quick intro now, which I already had created it. So I'm going to just go ahead and add, actually, you know what? I don't think I created it. So I'll do it now with you guys. Hey guys, welcome back to Talks with Marianne, episode 163. We are talking about 3 spiritual activities to do in business for the month of December. Please remember to check out Confident Businesswomen's Academy, where I teach you how to make money doing what you love online. Let's begin. Hey, I did the intro. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the background music right away. I have my favorites saved at the top. However, you can go through and scroll. They are organized through categories. So these are like high beats. I don't know what that means, but like more active beats. There's the calm section. So it's kind of like more melodic. There's a cheerful sound. Curious. Curious is kind of cute. Maybe I'll do something from curious. I like that. So we'll go ahead and add that. And now it's added. So I'll click the save button down here. And then I'll just title that intro with a fun emoji. All right, so now that's added and you can take a look, it's added. So I'm gonna go ahead and change the details because I don't want the title to be December 5th. I want it to be the actual title. So I'm gonna go in and change those now. And it's gonna be 163 and it's gonna be 3 spiritual activities to do for business in December. Okay. And then I'm just gonna write this again to kind of make this fast, but you can go in and talk about what it is that you're going to be talking about in the episode a little bit further. And then I always like to put my email address in here. At talks with, okay. Then I'll put in season 1 and then it's 163. And then I'll change the published date to next week with AM at 7 schedule. All right. Okay. Any questions on that? See how if you play with it, Courtney, if you play with the music, there's so many options. You saw how I scrolled through them real quick?
Yeah.
There's a lot of options. So
I didn't even know that you can schedule, which is really good.
yeah, you can schedule it out weeks on out. You can schedule a whole quarter of episodes if you wanted and just like let it be there. Okay, good. Next part would be before launching, I want you to start thinking of some episodes. Have a few episodes up before you launch, okay? You don't want to launch and only have like one. So you want to have like a few, and here's some episode topics, what to expect in the show. That's a cool topic to have as one of the first ones. What to expect. And then second one is who you are. How did you become who you are today? How did you become a coach? How did you become whatever it is? What did you do to get to where you're at today? And then another one is a FAQ about you or your business. That would be a great first few episodes. Okay. Now that we kind of have an understanding of what a podcast is and having a few episodes in, you're now going to announce to your podcast, you're going to announce your new podcast. So you're going to sell it on social media. You're going to talk about it. You're also going to add it to your email list as part of like a clickable item within the body of the email, and you're going to shoot them over to the podcast. And I would recommend to shoot them over to like Spotify or Apple, one of the bigger distributions. And then you want to add this to your website, just like when you get the RSS feed, you're going to add that to your website. Valley's like trying to get back and she's having a hard time. Okay. Sorry about that. So you want to send that to social media, email list, and website, and anywhere else you feel like you need, you can send it, okay? I wanted to share with you how to share your episode on Spotify, because one of the things about Anchor is that it's going to prompt you to share it on another distribution company. I don't even really know if you can share it on Apple. You're going to have to see that because you have Apple, right? I don't know if you can share the actual episode from Apple to Instagram, but this is how you share it on Spotify. Okay, guys, we are still in Spotify, and I wanted to show you how to share an episode. You can't actually directly share your episodes through Anchor. It will prompt you to go to Spotify or the other distribution companies. So, for example, let's say I want to share the episode 161. So I'll click on that one. And I'll click the share button with the prongs. And then I can literally share this in these areas. So I'll click the Instagram button. It goes straight to my stories. And then I go ahead and just share that. There we go. That's it. And then from there, that's all I do to share an episode from Spotify. And I can share that. I can go as low as 132. I can go all over the place throughout my timeline and just share wherever I feel like I want to share. All right, so that's how it looks like when you share on Spotify. Okay.
Okay.
Let me see, what's the next one? Monetizing your podcast. Okay, so monetizing your podcast, there's several ways you can monetize your podcast. You can sell ad space on your podcast. And what does this look like, selling ad space? Well, you can go to boutique companies and tell them you have a podcast. You would also have to document or showcase a level of listeners for them to want to partner with you, right? And at that point, they would make their considerations and see how much money you charge. And in the beginning, you could do like a $50 thing, like $50 to do like a rollout with me. You could do like every 30 minutes within the show, they get 60 seconds of ad space where they can talk about their thing, their product. And then you could do that maybe for 3 episodes, something like that. And I know $50 isn't a lot, but over time you can raise that to $75, $100, or maybe you can do like 3 or 4 other companies at the same time, then that would stack up. That's what selling ad space looks like. You could gain coaching clients through your podcast. So one of the things about having a podcast is that your client, your prospects really can feel your energy through your voice, and then just hearing you in the background. Like usually a lot of people who listen to podcasts are doing something else. They're either driving, they're either working, they're not just there sitting. So it's almost like it's kind of like the subconscious mind opens up to their subconscious mind is opened up to your whatever it is that you're imparting, right? So it's more powerful. It's like a secret ninja move that you can do when you podcast and they listen, your prospects listen. Another one, which was interesting. Do you guys know about Patreon? No, Patreon.
I've only heard of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, me too. I mean, I don't know too much about it. I've heard of it only because of Joe Budden. When he went from Spotify to now Patreon, they paid him to be exclusive on Patreon. And this is what it looks like if you wanted to subscribe to only his channel. So there is like a $5 per month, 10 or 25. And then underneath all of these was like, I don't know, like, I don't remember what the differences were, but it was like, you can have the whole library, you can, there's different, legs of more options, but he got a big bag for this to work with Patreon, right? So you would have to be obviously at a level where people would want you to subscribe an amount every month. I don't know if it's a commitment either. I think it's like maybe month to month for this, but your audience pays to listen to your podcast. That's the type of monetization for the podcast. Okay. Any questions on this?
No.
Okay, gain podcast engagement. So these are 2 ways you can gain podcast engagement. There's a Q&A section, which is, let's say, you ask your potential, just anyone who listens. Let's say, actually, no, Courtney, you have a blog. Maybe both of y'all have blogs. I don't remember. But let's say in your blog, someone responds and has a question, right? That would be an opportunity for you to actually make an entire section or an episode on the question and really dive deep into that question. And then you would name the person, and then that would kind of create, curiosity. She just said my name. Oh my God, I'm featured, and it kind of makes them feel special. So that's how you could do grow engagement with your podcast. Another one is you would create episodes that are connected to current events. So like, for example, this month is all about holidays. So I would recommend to do a podcast on holidays. Like one of the things that I just published was anxiety around the holidays. I know a lot of people are going to want to learn and hear about the things that are happening currently today, right? So that's one of the things that I want you guys to be mindful of when you create content. Are you creating content for what's happening today? What's happening in the month, in the week? And then I didn't add this, but you could also go into other people's podcasts and you can use their audience and obviously throw out your podcast, your business, your social medias and all of that through networking. Like you're just going out and being on other people's podcasts and being interviewed that way. That would be also another way to gain engagement. Okay. So maintaining your podcast is obviously you want to make it simple. You want to repurpose your content. The two ways I found it really easy was that I recorded on my phone. That was a really easy way for me to maintain my podcast. I also figured out that repurposing my content really made it easy for me to be consistent with my podcast. Scheduling out new episodes ahead of time, that has been very helpful for me too. And I just have fun with my episodes. One time I was sitting in the car with my kids because we were waiting for my daughter. This is when my other kid was in preschool, but we were waiting for the older one to get out, and her and I did an episode together, like me and my little one. She was so cute and answering all these fun questions. Have fun with the show. You know, it's your show. There's no real regulations on how to create your show. It's up to you on how you want to do it. Okay, let's talk about some legal stuff on podcasting. So on the legal spectrum, I recommend having your podcast connect with your business name or corporation name for legal protection, which then separates your personal assets from the actual podcast, and then it keeps it together. A general privacy policy and a disclaimer should be connected to your site. If you don't have that right now, you should put something like that on your website, so that when you do connect it to your podcast, that it's like another layer of protection, that privacy policy and disclaimer. Okay. Anytime you have anybody within your podcast, anyone that comes to you as an interviewer on your podcast, or even if you go on to someone else's podcast, you want to have some sort of waiver form so that you are not legally binded to them in any way, that they have no affiliation with you in any way, and that everything that happens within your podcast is yours, and there's no connection to other entities when you have people come into your podcast. You can download that in Module 9. And then if you do decide to do multiple people in your podcast, meaning from here on out, you're only doing your podcast with you and 2 of your friends, and that's how your podcast is. I recommend to get a host agreement. And what this is pretty much like a partnership that says who owns what. You know, I own a fourth of the podcast. So let's say y'all make it big and it becomes syndicated and you guys are on Patreon. There is a host agreement that shows what and who is owed, and, you know, the ownership and all of that stuff. Okay, now that is something you actually have to pay for. If you click on this, it's like $200 for this. You could probably get one online for free, but I recommend going with an actual attorney to get that together. But that's pretty much it on the legal part of podcasting. There's really no way to reserve a name for podcasting, as long as you have, like, the only kind of way you can officially reserve a name is if you buy the domain name. You know, like, so if you guys already have a domain name, I would stick with the domain name you currently have and use that as the podcast title, so that it's not like mismatched. So everything is cohesive. So for mine is toxicmaria.com. It's my podcast name, it's my corporation name. And so for you guys, if you already have a domain name, I would stick to that as your podcast title. And that's pretty much it. Any questions, anything you guys want to chat, or anything I missed that you guys want to cover more on?
I have a question about the repurposing. So I know you repurpose from the lives, and there's times where you might like be saying things that you might want to cut out, like maybe addressing like small things from somebody that's talking to you in the live. Do you do that when you're doing the repurpose to podcasts?
No, I actually keep it in there. You know what it does is I feel like it kind of gives it authority when you are talking to people. It's almost like, oh, people are responding to her, I need to listen to. It kind of gives it that feel that they're just not talking to themselves the whole time. So I actually think it's a benefit when people are engaging with you in the live, because in that it kind of shows, you actually have an audience you're speaking to. So as people listen to your episodes on Anchor, they can also feel at some level people are listening to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now you might feel differently about that. I mean, is there like a thing where you don't want that on there?
No, I just was wondering about it because I've really been thinking about doing the podcasting. So that was just one of my questions even before the meeting today. Like, how do I manage that, especially if I'm gonna be repurposing a lot from Instagram?
Yeah. So what you can do is, if that is something that you really want to cut out, that is obviously up to you. However, if that is a thing that you are like, it's really important for me, then what you can do is you can download the video editor, because all of this is repurposing on your phone, right?
Yeah.
So I have a video editor app called InShot.
Yeah.
Oh, did I already
shot?
You use that? Okay. So yeah, when you download the video, you can actually split those parts out. And then that way you can extract that video as an audio. But then again, that's additional work.
Yeah.
I honestly, it's the more I talk about how I keep things so simple, it really just does show how I really have simplified everything. But that's the thing, I keep all of that in there, even if like my kids are in the back, I keep it in there. It's just one of those things where it's like I'm not going to edit it out. That's just, I mean, as long as you're not like having full-blown kid tantrums in the background, right? But for the most part, I keep it very simple because I want to think about the longevity of it.
Okay.
Can I add something?
Yeah, go for it.
Something that I really like about some of the podcasts I listen to, especially if they have people asking live questions, to me that just kind of like reaffirms that this person is being trusted by people. So hearing the live questions makes me, I don't know, I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. She's actually got people that are asking questions. And of course, some of their questions are really good. So you end up learning new things. And about the kids in the background or the dog barking or whatever, I don't mind that either, because it just reminds me that it doesn't have to be perfect. And so of course, as long as you can hear the person and whatever it is they're saying. But I just wanted to add that in because I think that we tend to overthink it way too much, and I'm working hard on letting those things go.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So when are you launching your podcast, Sally?
I want to say by next Saturday.
Oh wow.
Because yeah.
Next year.
I was waiting on this class to do it all, to launch it. So now that I saw and you explained some things, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it and start moving my YouTube interviews in there. But I want to alternate, like maybe I'll do a new one and then next week I'll do a replay of the old one, something like that. I'll definitely have enough for more than a year.
Wow.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah, and you can schedule it out too.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, you can.
I do have a question about the show notes.
Yep, go for it.
Where do those go? And is there a character limit for those?
There is, and I did a little video on it here. You'll see the character limit on there, like right here. See?
Oh, it was on the description part. Okay, got it.
Here's that. See, it's 100 words on the episode title, and then there's 4,000 words on the description. And I showed how it looks like on Spotify, but for you, I know that you guys are Apple podcast listeners. I would take a look and see I think it does show the whole thing. actually.
Mhm. Yeah,
And then
okay.
you can also do like rate reviews, trades. Like if y'all, like even in the group, like y'all can go into each other's podcast and like review each other and write a review. I know on Apple, there's like reviews that you can do on the podcast, and you can do like 4 stars or 5 stars or something, and then write a little nice note. But y'all can do rate review exchanges in the group.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not in here, but
definitely.
and that's pretty much it. I'm glad that we were able to connect on this. Any other things that came up though, that I didn't cover?
One more question. In the beginning, on one of the videos where you were showing, you added the intro and the outro.
Yeah.
The intro was kind of like positioned underneath the actual body of it. Do you move that around, or does it kind of know?
No, you actually, I didn't show that you can drag it. You can drag it up. Just drag
Okay.
it up, and you like hold it, and it sticks to your finger, and you drag it up. And then yeah, you would do the intro, then the body, then the outro.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't show that you would drag that up. And then you would just save it, and then the way it saves is how it looks. So if you see intro at the top, that's how it's going to play in your episode.
Okay.
Yeah, but you'll get.
Courtney,
Go ahead.
sorry, Courtney, when are you launching yours?
I don't know. I hope I have some live, so I'm just gonna play around with it and see. Maybe this month in December.
Cool. Yeah, let me know so that I can do the review.
Okay.
Do
Thank
a
you.
trade with you. That would be
Well,
really.
you let me know too, Dolly.
Will do.
I can get on yours.
Yeah, I gotta go Maria's and do a review too.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really listen to podcasts that much, so I need to start.
Oh no, I'm addicted. That's all I do. If I'm cleaning, taking a walk, working out, it's always something.
A podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, like it's like I looked up back in 2019, I looked up how many bloggers there were versus podcasters. And at the time there was like 500 million bloggers and then only 500,000 podcasters. This is 2 years.
Wow.
So it went up, but you see the difference is vast. So getting your piece of real estate right now in podcasting is really important, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. Thanks so much for being with me. So love seeing your faces. And then if you guys could share in the group what you guys learned, and we will talk. Dolly, I'll talk to you next week. Court, we'll talk this week.
Okay.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you. Bye,
Bye,
Courtney.
y'all.
Bye, Maria.
Bye.